Welcome to Building a Powerful Audio Mix for Your Video. I'm Loren Alldrin. In this class, we're going to be talking about how to make our audio sources sound their very best and then mix them together in a compelling and powerful video that will really engage our viewers. Now, I'm going to be using Adobe Premiere software, but I won't be using any special plugins or tools, so what I show you should work with your software of choice. We won't have time to get into 5.1 surround in this class. Now, you're going to need earbuds or headphones, so get those, and let's begin. This first example was shot on a bridge crossing a really noisy creek. I'll play back some of it with the original camera audio so you can hear what we were dealing with.
Whoa, look at this pretty creek.
Okay, you can hear the dialogue, but it's pretty buried in noise. We clearly can't use that audio. So what did I do? I put a cardioid condenser microphone just outside the frame here to the left. It picked up some really nice audio. I'll let you hear that now.
Whoa, look at this pretty creek. I love the way it sounds. We're almost to the ocean. Let's go.
Okay, you may have noticed when I started playing it back that as the girls were moving onto the bridge, the sound moved from left to center, and that's what you see right here. This is a pan envelope starting up here on the left, and as the sound fades in, it moves to the center. And as they leave the frame out here, the opposite happens. I pan from center to right as they move out of the frame.
Okay.
So that's a little more obvious. You can hear their footfalls move out. Okay, I also added a background. I'll let you hear the background sound now. Now, as with many of the examples in this class, I recorded this with my small recorder, which is a fantastic tool, but with the gain cranked all the way up as it was to record this background, ended up with a lot of noise. Now, I'm going to let you hear the sound without the noise reduction on and without the filtering on. Here we go. Now I'm going to turn on the high and low pass filtering. It got rid of all that low rumble. And now I'm going to turn the denoise plugin on. Denoise plugin on. Quite a difference. Plugin on, plugin off. I also recorded background sounds of the creek, and I put the recorder right on a rock near the creek. I ended up with a very wide stereo sound, very clear, lots of high frequency detail, but not realistic at all for this scene. I'll let you hear the original recording. Right, it sounds pretty, but it also sounds like you've got your head in a toilet. Clearly not very realistic for this setting. So, two things I did. The first one was I used the parametric EQ and the high and low pass filters to take away some of the bass and roll off a lot of the top end, the high frequency information that you really wouldn't hear where the camera is now, where the girls are now. So here is off, and then I will turn the filtering on. On. Okay, it's much more muted. There's the filtering off, filtering on again. Now that will drop into the background and not demand too much attention. The other thing I changed was the stereo spread. Like I said, with the microphone right down there by the water, it got too much stereo imaging. It sounded too wide. So I'll play the original, and then I will increase the stereo width to give you a feel for what that sounds like, and then I will decrease it to where I think it should be for the shot. There's the original with a lot of left-right going on. There's even more stereo imaging, and then that's about where I put it. So there's still a little bit of spread. It sounds a little bit wide, but it's not unrealistic at all. Now we'll hear the whole thing like this.
Whoa, look at this pretty creek. I love the way it sounds. We're almost to the ocean. Let's go. Okay.
Okay, our next example is an outdoor Scrabble game. I'm going to play a little bit of it here to give you some context.
Can I help?
Sure. Is that okay with you? Yeah, that's fine. Good luck.
Okay, so a little bit about how we recorded the audio on this. No body mics, no overhead boom. Instead, we used this. We had a portable audio recorder hidden just behind the Scrabble box, recording in stereo. Did a fantastic job, except it left us with a couple things to clean up. And honestly, it was my mistake. I put the recorder right on the tabletop, and it picked up some mechanical noises. If I had just put something, even a couple napkins to keep it up, it would have done the trick. But now we have something to fix, so let's get started on that. Here's the audio from the recorder.
Can I help?
Can I help? Thump. You hear the little bump I'm talking about. Let me play it again.
Can I help?
That mechanical noise was her knee hitting the table. The solution is I'm going to bring down the parametric EQ for that track, and we are going to use some filtering to clean that up. A high-pass filter reduces low frequencies, and in this case, that thump is low. We're going to use it to cut that out, but I have to be careful. If I set the high-pass filter too high, it will start to thin out the girls' voices. So I'm going to play the track back, and I'm going to turn on the filter, and I'm going to bring it up while I'm listening for their voices. I'm going to make sure that they don't get thin sounding. As soon as they do, I'll back it down again. So I'm going to play the track and sweep this up and listen.
Oxazine. That's O-X.
Okay, right in there.
Z
Back down again.
I-N-E. That's 31.
Okay, ended up right around 200 hertz, which based on what I'm listening, what I'm hearing, and what I know about the human voice, is that that's a good spot to set a filter. Unless it's male voices, deeper voices, that will start to thin them out. But for this, it's perfect. Now when I go back and I listen to our thump, you're going to hear it's less of a thump and more of a tap. Here we go.
Help?
Let's see it again.
Can I help?
Little tap. I'll kill the filter and you listen.
Help?
Thump. All right. I can do better though, and here's how. I'm going to zoom in a little so you can see. You can see where the thump is right there. I'm going to use the envelope tool to duck the sound just a little bit right there. Pull it down like this. I'm reducing it about 15 dB or so. Now listen.
Can I help?
So it's a tiny little tap now.
Can I help?
Certainly not offensive, but you can hear, because of the way I ducked it, as the volume comes back up, you hear the background sounds swell. It's not entirely natural sounding, but when we put our background in, it will cover over all of that. And that's one of the beauties of having recorded some background sound. There's another thing the background is going to cover over for us. In this section here, I went from ticks or taps from the actual camera as I held it there in front of the pieces to taps that I recorded with the recorder, Foley style, after the fact. Now near the end here, they got a bit out of sync with what I was seeing on the screen, so I chopped them up into segments, and you can listen to the dead spots between each of those. It's rather annoying. Can you hear that? It kind of like it's pumping. Again, when I bring our background sound in, you won't notice that. If I wanted to clean those up, I would do a small fade on either side, so rather than a sharp cut, it would be smooth. And then lastly, from the recorder sitting on the table, I got these clicks, which I ducked just a little bit in volume. So the clicks are loud to start and then they go down. It was just an aesthetic decision as the scene was unfolding. All right, so about that background, let's give that a listen now. Here it is. Okay, so I recorded that again with this recorder, and I got some nice bird sounds, I got some wind rustling in the trees, and I got a lot of noise, electrical noise from this. That's one disadvantage of these inexpensive recorders. So it's broadband noise, it's low frequency to high frequency. I don't like it. In fact, I've already reduced it. I'm going to turn off the noise reduction, and I'm going to turn off the parametric equalizer that I used for filtering, and I'll let you hear how much noisier that actually is. Here's our filter. I'm going to turn it off. Now listen to the noise. So there's a low frequency rumble down under there, and there's high frequency hiss that we don't want. I'm going to turn both filters off. I'm going to engage them one at a time. I'm going to turn on the high pass filter, which is eliminating the low frequencies, and listen how much things get cleaned up. On. Off. Hear the rumble? On. Now there's something happening on the top end too. There's hiss, high frequency noise I want to get rid of. I will engage the low pass filter, turn it on and off, and listen to that hiss go away. On. Off. Hear the hiss? Okay, so we want that filter on. Now I have a denoiser plug-in also on this track. It's currently disabled. There's some magic going on here. It actually analyzes the sound, figures out what is noise, and reduces it. Here we go. Turning it on now. Off. On. Okay, so the high and low pass filters gave us just what we want in the middle, eliminated a bunch of noise, and then the denoiser cleaned it up even further. So now we have a nice, clean background track, well, clean enough, where we can hear the birds, we can hear the tapping, we can hear all that we need. And now our scene with the background sound in is a lot smoother. Take a listen.
Can I help?
Sure. Is that okay with you?
So now the little clunk out here,
Can I help?
Sure.
if we hadn't heard it earlier, you probably wouldn't even know it was there. The gaps between these ticks, not so noticeable. So that's one of the functions of a background, to give you setting, give you place, and cover a multitude of sends. Okay, for our next example, we're going back to the ocean. I'll play a bit of it for you here. Establishing shot. Stairs. Okay, fast forward a bit.
You'd think a civilized park could at least install an escalator.
Or you could eat less pizza. Anyway, that is what we've got. How did we get the audio for this? We did not use a body mic. I didn't have a lav hidden away. There was no boom overhead and nothing in the bushes. Instead, we used this. So hiding just behind the step that I stopped and delivered my inspired monologue at was this recorder. And it picked up excellent sound. All right, what else do we have? In this shot, we also have some background sound. Let's give that a listen. Okay, the ocean. And in this case, I used my recorder, and it sounds fantastic. I didn't need to adjust anything. I didn't have to do any filtering. There was some low-frequency rumble, but I liked the fullness of that. And I duck the audio. The background goes down just at the scene change. We'll listen back more to that. Also, kind of put on my Foley hat for this one and had fun recording my own footfalls and breaths to add to the shot. I'll let you hear the footfalls now after I mute the ocean. Here we go. All right, that blue section was a little bonus. My original camera audio captured my foot slipping on the board, and it worked out great, so I dropped that in there in the midst of all these others. So you can hear the variety. As I recorded this with my recorder, I tried to get a variety of thumps and slips, and I did some footfalls on the dirt, and I did some footfalls on the boards, and those have more of a woody, kind of a resonant sound to them. Now, high pass and low pass filtering, we've talked about how that can clean up bad audio. It can also make things sound more realistic, because here's the bottom line. The realism, the fidelity of that recorder picking up my foot from a foot away is not realistic. That's not how we listen to things. We don't put our ears a foot away from someone's foot. So it had too much bass, too much thump, and too much clarity, too much brightness on the top. So to make it sound more realistic and sit better in the scene, I used high and low pass filtering, but to actually eliminate information that we didn't need. And here's what I mean. I'm going to turn off the high and low pass filters and come out here, and I want you to hear how thumpy and kind of full sounding. Some of these footfalls are right in this area. So those right there just sound too big. I'm going to engage the high pass filter. Now listen to those. So they still have a little more fullness to them, but I'm walking away from the camera. I'm 20 feet away. You wouldn't naturally hear that loud thumping, nor would you hear all the high frequency detail that my recording has. And that's what the low pass filter is going to do now. We're going to strip away some of that extra high frequency energy. You see, the closer you get to something, usually the brighter and clearer it sounds. So this sounds like I'm stomping right next to your ear, which is clearly not accurate. So we want to make that sound like it's further away, and that's what this filter is going to do. So I'm going to turn it off. You hear all that crispy stuff. Now I'm going to turn it on. The difference is subtle, but it's definitely there. So that gives you an idea how you can use high and low pass filters to reduce the fidelity of a recording, but make it more realistic. So now I'm going to return the ocean to our track and let you hear all of those sounds together. Okay, now I forgot to add the automation on the breaths and the footfalls. Let you see what that looks like right here. So in the mixer, the breaths and footfalls were set to off for automation. I want those to read, and I'm going to play this back, and hopefully you can still see where we're at. But when I drop onto the timeline back here, look how low these are. And as I move toward the camera, you'll see they come back up. So they dipped down in volume as I went away from the camera and then back up again to give the effect of moving away. So let me come back a little bit more here. All right, so watch those and listen to the footfalls and breaths get quieter. Pause there. Now I'm moving again. Okay, so now I deliver the monologue, and then I'll flip past that because I'm tired of hearing myself. Now watch what happens with these faders as I come toward the camera. All right, so that finishes the scene. I'll show you something else that I did to increase the realism as this is going on is, for starters, now you may need earbuds to hear this or headphones to hear this. Listen for where the breaths start as I come into the shot. I don't know if you can tell, but they're a little bit in the left ear because I'm coming across the frame. And when I leave the frame, you'll hear the breaths move to the right. Okay, so that was simply done with panning. And if I open up the track panner here, you'll see that my breaths were pretty much centered up until I got close to the camera, and then I panned them to the right. So here's how that sounds again. Sweep off to the right. Again, headphones or earbuds recommended. And now I'm coming in from the left right here. And by the time I hit that second breath, I'm centered up again. Okay, subtle little things, but all of this works together to add realism. Now I want to point out one other thing. When it comes to audio levels, you have so many options in most software. And in fact, there are 3 different places that you can control audio levels. That right there is what's considered to be an envelope or a volume envelope, but it's happening at the clip level. That sound stays with the clip, that sound change. That's one place you can make adjustments. You can also, I'm going to right click here, I also have something called audio gain. Now, in different software, it have a different name, but I can change the gain of the original source audio as it comes in. So we can change the gain of the source clip. We can use the envelope here to adjust the source clip. And then, I showed you a second ago, we have the ability to automate the faders here. So all 3 of those options come into play, and it's not uncommon at all to use all the above in any given clip. When you are trying to mix things together, when you're working for that blend that gives you a powerful, compelling audio track, you have a tremendous amount of control. You should learn how to do all three of those things. So with the background sort of smoothing things over, the breaths, the footfalls, then the monologue that I delivered as I came up the line, and then later on we'll get into the music. But right now we've got the full effect, and I will just go ahead and play a little bit of that for you. Okay, so you can see that's compelling. It's interesting. It's fun to watch, and that's the goal with a scene like this. Now we get to go back and add music to our examples. Music is so powerful and effective at engaging the viewer, and it really adds professionalism and polish to our videos. So to get all the elements from the creek shot to blend together, I made some changes. You can see here in the creek background sound right here, I'll solo it up. I have it building in gently and then decreasing where the dialogue hits. Okay, in the music track, I brought the music in strong at the beginning. You can see this envelope down here, and then it decreases, and then it bumps up again at the end. You'll hear how that sits in context as well. Now I'm going to play the whole thing back, and I'm going to add in the elements one at a time, starting with the background sound, then the creek, and then the music. Now at the end, listen to the music swell in. Some of that was in the track, but I gave it a little bit of help.
Whoa, look at this pretty creek. I love the way it sounds. We're almost to the ocean. Let's go. Okay.
Isn't that fun? Doesn't that just make you want to go on this adventure with them? Okay, on to our next example. Okay, our stair climb video is ready for some appropriate music. I'll let you hear a little bit of it right here. And so it goes. Now this music doesn't have much change at all in its energy level. It just purrs along, keeps the same constant energy, sits underneath, and just adds motion. Now I did make a change over here to the levels, and you can see where my dialogue comes in, or monologue as it were. I dipped the music level down just a little bit with the envelope to make it make some room for the monologue. Now that's something that you'll do a lot with music. Another thing I'll point out quickly is that right at this edit, you can see the background sound. This is the ocean. It drops down. Our sound effects, the breaths and footfalls start in, and the music begins. Now we're going to listen to the whole thing and just notice how the combined elements, the background sound, the Foley sounds, the steps and the breaths and the grunts, and especially the music, notice how those all come together and make this so much more compelling. Here we go.
You'd think a civilized park could at least install an escalator.
On to our final example. Okay, I may have saved the best for last. This is the outdoor Scrabble game. This one was a lot of fun. What is the essence of that scene? Well, it's really when the little girl comes up and whispers. Does she really have a word? The problem is it was over too quick. So what I did is I actually went to that spot in the shot and I slowed down the speed of the video, which extended the whisper. Watch. Now, when you stretch the video, your audio is no longer going to line up. So what I did is I chopped the audio and opened up this big gap. And then I just pulled it open all the way and added a fade. So now to the music. Coming out of the whisper, when it seems like the whole universe is breathlessly waiting to see what this little girl has to say, it comes out like this. So as soon as she leans down, the music kicks in. And then I had to pull the gap open. And this is what it sounds like on the other side. Not very appealing. If I stretch this clip out, I get the drum hits. Listen. No, I don't want that either. So what am I going to do? So in the track underneath, I took the last little snippet of music here and I pulled it down and I added a delay. And in fact, all you're hearing is the delay, not the original sound. So this little snippet of audio feeds the delay that you hear echo out and kind of fill in that gap. So let me solo these up and you can hear how they sound together. And that sits in the gap and fills it out. So now the whole section works like this.
Good luck.
I kept the background going so you hear the birds tweeting, kind of like crickets. It really accentuates that moment, doesn't it? A couple things we need to clean up though. The music
Can I help?
Sure. Is that okay?
is a little too loud in these sections. So before the dialogue starts, I'm going to add some control points. And then after it ends, I'm going to add some, and I'm going to just pull it down a little bit. It's at 0 dB. I'm going to bring it down to -4, somewhere in there. So now let's listen to that.
Can I help?
Sure.
Did you hear it just duck under?
Is that okay with you? Yeah, that's fine. Good luck.
And it comes back up in the gap, gives us our hit. It's sounding really nice. One thing I want to do at the beginning though, I'm going to let you listen to how it starts. Here how the music builds. Okay. What I want to do is underneath the clicks, I want the music to swell up underneath. And what we're going to do now is we're going to learn a little bit about fade types. So I'm going to go over, you can't see this, I'm pulling up effects. Now this is one called a constant gain fade. And I'm going to put it in here like this, so it's peaking right about the time that the music gets loud. And let's see how this feels underneath. So that would be a very constant slope like this. There's another one here called a constant power. I'll drag it down. Listen to this. Okay, this one comes up quickly and flattens out. It would look more like this. There's one more called exponential. This one is going to be the opposite. It's going to start low and then build up. There's our winner. It doesn't compete with the clicks to start the scene, and then as we're coming up to where the orchestra really hits in, it gets nice and loud. Listen to that again. All right, that is working. I think we've got all of our elements in place. Let's listen back to the whole thing.
Can I help?
Sure. Is that okay with you? Yeah, that's fine. Good luck. Oxazine. That's OXAZINE. That's 31 on a triple word score, 93. Ugh.
I'm Loren Alldrin with sonodeo.com for Capture Conference 2020. Thanks for joining me.